is Smart Consulting Sourcing, the only podcast about consulting procurement or how to buy consulting services. You'll get tips on how to use consulting, buy consulting, and managing the consulting. And now your host, Ellen Lafitte.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Smart Consulting Sourcing, the only podcast about consulting procurement. I'm Ellen, and today is the fourth episode of your series, How to Buy Consulting Services Like a Pro. I'm going to tell you what you should include in your RFP for consulting. But before we get started, let me recap what we said last week. Before you start writing the perfect RFP, gather the right team, which should include project managers, project sponsors, key stakeholders, procurement leaders, of course, and representative of finance and strategy, particularly if the project is significant or vital. So role-wise, business lines are responsible for articulating the needs and desired results, while procurement is in charge of challenging and formalizing the requirements and making sure they adhere to the policies and the procedures. Create an effective request for proposal by making it clear, simple, realistic, and formalized. You should provide just the required amount of information, set deadlines and expected outcome, and use simple language. The goals you define should be attainable, and you can add a briefing stage if your project is really complex. Make sure you include enough detail so that the consulting firms can comprehend the issues your organization faces, as well as what you hope to achieve with this project. Keep an open mind to welcome innovative solutions to your problem. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the Smart Consulting Sourcing episode from last week. All the usual suspects such as Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube have your podcast available. And the full transcript is accessible in the thought leadership section of our website, consultingquest.com, if you'd prefer to read rather than listen or watch. Today, get ready for an in-depth exploration that will equip you with all the essential know-how about drafting effective RFPs. Plus, along the way, we'll provide you with some practical tips to make your journey even more successful. So grab a snack and let's go on this adventure. Welcome to the competitive world of consulting, where experienced professionals play a fast-paced game of RFPs, pitch decks, and board presentations. Here, success is determined in the blink of an eye. Well, let's get a bit more serious. For the past few weeks, I've emphasized the importance of formalizing your needs into an RFP for consulting, along with having the right people and mindset. But today, I'm going to walk you through the necessary component that should be included in a request for proposal when seeking consulting services. So we all know that consulting projects are only as successful as their clearly outlined requirements. And it is easy for many organizations to let consultants define what work should be done. But this isn't a smart solution. You don't just run out and buy the biggest bed in the store with all of its bells and whistles if you can't sleep. No. Instead, it's important to take into consideration every other potential solution before making such an investment. And defining your needs with the consultants is similar. They will try to fit your problem into their talents and resources. And to quote Abraham Maslow, I suppose it's tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail, right? So tackling this task on your own can feel daunting, but don't worry, I've got you covered. When crafting an RFP for potential consulting firms, make sure to include all the necessary information so that their proposal allows you to answer three questions. First off, does the consulting firm understand what problem you're trying to solve? Then figure out if they have the skills required. Do they know how best to tackle that problem? And finally, will you work well together with them throughout the duration of a project? With that in mind, let's take action and make it happen. The first element in your RFP is the background of your company. You may need to give more information about your company, business unit, or department, and how it fits into a larger scheme if you're not very familiar with the consulting firms you wish to invite to the bid process. This strategy can help bring new competitors up to speed quickly. It's crucial for consultants to understand the background of a company in order to identify similar projects and clients they have worked with before. Next, you need to clarify the context of your project. Here, you should outline the primary goals and motivations behind initiating this consulting project. So, as we discussed previously, it can be interesting to have a few meetings with consulting firms before releasing the RFP to hone your vision for the project. So it's not uncommon to learn after beginning to describe your requirements that you're actually taking a scope that's too vast, or that the project may be broken down into smaller portions. Once the context is established, you can move on to specifying your project requirements. This is the core of your RFP: objective, scope, and deliverables. And consultants can be helpful in many ways, but very few will know what you need from them until you spell it out. The best place to begin is by restating the dilemma at the beginning of this section. Inform the consulting firms involved in the RFP process of the objectives and anticipated results. The main objective can be stated in just a few simple sentences. Nonetheless, most paths, if not all, eventually end up at the eternal city. The scope, the level of confidentiality, the people who should be involved on your end, and the schedule for the project may need some fine-tuning. Finding the perfect equilibrium when outlining anticipated deliverables can be also a difficult task. It's easy to become overly detailed, which eliminates external providers' expertise and creative potential in favor of temporary staff-like performance. And it's not recommended practice. However, it can still succeed if you know precisely what needs to happen. Our experience has highlighted the importance of allowing consultants to present their approach to problem solving instead of dictating a particular methodology. This will not only permit you the flexibility to make changes down the line, but also provide an alternative and potentially enlightening perspective in approaching challenging questions. The schedule and budget will come next. You have a timetable in mind unless your project is not urgent, or at the very least, some internal deadlines and meetings. Consulting candidates must be aware of the project's timeline. It has a direct impact on the team composition and the project cost. Users and buyers almost never include a budget in an RFP. However, if you're on a tight budget, it may make sense to include that information to avoid wasting time on proposals that you cannot afford. And as bonus, the consultants will be able to propose trade-offs or design to cost proposals. So now we're entering the murky depths of the consulting world. Here, we'll find all those nitty-gritty details that are often overlooked or left out of an RFP for consulting. Prepare to be surprised, shocked, and amazed at what lies hidden beneath the surface. To start, detail the selection process. So will there be a Q&A session, or will all responses be shared with everyone? When do you anticipate getting proposals back? And when is the project kickoff date for this project? How many rounds of review will it take to make your final decision? It's essential for prospective consultants to be aware of the key stages in this RFP process and how much time they will have to create and submit their proposals, as well as what resources they can allocate towards it. Both the criteria for selection and the expected outcomes of the proposals must be stated clearly. In theory, you're already aware of how you will go about making the cut. If not, now is the time to give it some thought, right? The competence of the firm to complete the task, the expertise, the transparency of the approach and the deliverable, the makeup of the team, the compatibility with your company, and the cost, of course, are all typical selection criteria. So as you can see, there's a lot more to think about than just cost. Although there is no foolproof method for selecting the best consulting firms, it's essential to share your requirement with them early on so that you receive a high quality proposal and can make well-informed, equitable choices. You should mention all your needs in the RFP. for checking references, you could be interested in getting the names and contact details of past clients. Internal procurement policy can also incorporate eligibility requirements. It's possible that your consultants need to be approved or qualified as vendor before you work with them. And finally, but not least, you must identify the primary point of contact throughout the process. Will it be a third party, an executive, or someone from procurement? During the RFP process, they should be the point of contact for all communication with consulting firms. Allowing consulting firms to make direct contact with executive of their choosing will give incumbents an unfair advantage and distort competition. Now, you should know everything that needs to be included in your proposal. You'll notice that the first part of the RFP is mainly about the project and the expectations, business lines, territory, while the end of the RFP is about process, compliance, and selection, which is the procurement background. So again, and for the 100th time maybe, collaboration is key. This is the real secret to getting the best RFPs, period. Now let's conclude, shall we? Ready for the takeaways? So you're not making a purchase, rather you're solving a problem. So don't focus on the means, but rather on the expected outcomes of the project. Because actually, you simply want the various candidates to submit their best proposal for your project. So give information about your company and the environment you operate in. Unless you work exclusively with consulting firms, you already know. I'll explain why this isn't always a good idea to only work with familiar consultants another time. Now, explain the assignment's context. A project is almost never one-dimensional. Understanding a project's political and technical implications is critical for designing a tailored solution to your problems. Also, describe your goals in plain English. Put on paper the benefits and or deliverables you anticipate for the project, as well as any constraints you may face. And finally, be open and honest about the RFP process. Inform the consultants about the process, the content you expect in the proposal, and how you will make your decision. Using the conventional tough procurement guide approach is so last year, as my kids would say. We'll conclude our session for today here. However, don't be alarmed. In the coming week, we will delve deeper into clarifying your project's context and background. Great idea, right? I shall provide a few examples from real-life scenarios as well. So get ready to take notes, since this lesson will be chock full of information and advice that can help you craft a perfect RFP. Till then, stay safe and happy sourcing. And if you have any question regarding today's topic of any consulting or procurement related topic, actually, remember you can always contact me directly on LinkedIn or by email, because I'm always game for a chat. Bye, and see you next week. Au revoir.
You've been listening to Smart Consulting Sourcing, the only podcast about consulting procurement. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hit the website at consultingquest.com. Find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. For questions and comments, send an email to ellen.lafitte@consultingquest.com. See you next time.